Mr. Chairman, it's 9:30 and we have quorum.
Okay, so I've unmuted. We can't see George. Is there some reason for that, Joe? Jill? We can't see George.
I'm not sure why.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you if that's you, George.
Yeah. Hey, George.
Okay. We'll have to do. If you can get your picture going, that would be helpful.
What do we do to do it?
What do we do? I don't know.
There's a video icon down in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen.
Oh, this.
Okay.
Oh, I need a new technician here.
Well, here, let me do it.
Oh no, you're doing pretty well with the one you've got. So while George is doing that, I'll call this special
There you go.
Heritage Oakville meeting to order. Morning, George.
Morning, George.
When we do a meeting like this on Zoom, there's a lot more background work goes on. I mean, when we set up a meeting physically in town hall, there's work done there too, but this is a much more complex arrangement. So I appreciate all the work that the staff does to get it all to happen. So I'll just, for the benefit of the committee members and for any other people who are watching this on the live stream, that the rules of engagement are pretty similar to the real life meeting. We will deal with the items as they come up on the agenda. There will be a presentation with respect to each item. That presentation will appear on the screen. At the end of the presentation, that will come down and we will then be able to see each other. And if any of you wishes to ask a question of the presenter or to make any other comments at a later date, just let me know, give a wave, and then I'll put you down on the speakers list and I'll call you to speak at the appropriate time. We have a couple of people who've registered as delegates today. One of them, I think, has already logged in, and at the appropriate time in the agenda, they will be brought in by the clerk, and we'll make the presentation or ask or answer any questions that we might have. And any member of the public who wants to participate and to be a delegate, there's a telephone number 905-815-6095 that they can call to register as a delegate. So again, as we proceed, I will announce the item. There'll be a staff presentation. We will ask questions. You will unmute when you're asking your question, and it goes back and forth. And when you're finished, please mute again. And if you forget, Jill will just mute you anyway. And once all the delegations have been heard, as I did the last time, we'll ask for those opposed. We'll hope that it's a little bit easier than it was the last time when we really got some quite close votes. Anyway, that's okay. I'm thinking I'm covering off everything else. I've got to now read in those who are attending the meeting today. And I've got Drew Bucknell as chair. I've got Councillor Kathy Duddock. I've got Bob Ferguson. I've got Councillor Dave Gittings. I've not yet got Sue Hobson. I've got Brenda Sweeney and I've got Jerry Tino. Now, Sue sent me an email. She said she hadn't got the link. I think Kathy Patrick is trying to get her in, but we do still have quorum, so that's okay. So I probably should ask you, Madam Clerk, since it's on the, or Madam Secretary, that it's on the agenda, if we have any regrets.
Mr. Chairman, regrets are received from Daniel Hampton Davies and Russ Buckland.
Yep. Good. Thank you very much. Now, the next item then is, does anyone have a pecuniary interest with respect to any of the items we're dealing with today? Seeing none, good. We can move right on then. And I'll just remind everybody again, particularly the public.
Excuse me,
George?
Mr. Chair. I think George was trying to get your attention.
I see that. George, unmute yourself and unmute, George. George, you're still muted. Bottom left-hand corner.
Okay now?
Yes, can hear you now.
Okay, so I'm, it's not a pecuniary interest, but I am a member of Knox Presbyterian, and therefore I want to make that known beforehand for the second item on the agenda today.
Yep. Thanks, George.
Okay.
But that's not a pecuniary interest for the purposes
No,
of the committee, but it's good to know. And I'm a member of St. Jude's, and I think they're on it too, so I would
Okay.
say the same thing. Okay, just a reminder again for everybody here and viewing, that we are an advisory committee, that we make recommendations to council. Council actually disposes of these recommendations, and it will do so at its meeting on July the 6th, 2020, which I guess will be a virtual meeting again, which will start at 6:30. And if anyone wishes to speak, then they should or they must get hold of the clerk, because it's a lot. There's work to be done to make sure that you can get access. Good. I'm glad to see you, that you made it here, Sue. You're labeled Kathy Patrick, so you've been promoted. Anyway, so having got through all the preliminaries, and I think Sue, you know the process from the last meeting. You know what it is we're going to be doing and how we're going to be doing it. So the first item is a heritage permit application for a new front porch at 214 Reynolds. And I think it's Sue, in fact, that's up for all of our work today. So Sue, I'll hand it over to you.
Thrilled to be back here today. This is my first time in Town Hall since March 17th, I think. So I'm happy to lead you through the heritage permit application for 214 Reynolds Street. It's a relatively straightforward application. I'm not sure if the clerk can confirm if the agent for the application has logged in or not, but I know that they had intended to be available to answer questions. But we will start the presentation. Okay. And so here we are at 214 Reynolds Street. So this is a property that is located on the west side of Reynolds, in between Freestone Lane and Palmer Avenue. It is designated as part of the Trafalgar Road Heritage Conservation District. As you can fairly clearly see, the house is not historic. It was constructed in the early 1970s. And the application before you today is to remove that little portico over the main entrance and to construct a new front porch. So just taking you through a couple of photos of the existing conditions on the site, you can see that, again, as the house itself was built in the 1970s, nothing here is considered to be historic. It does, of course, predate the Trafalgar Road Heritage Conservation District, which was put in place in 1993, 1994. And so here are a couple of photos of the existing portico. I believe this house was actually the subject of a heritage permit application for a number of changes back in 2008, which is right before when I started with the town. And I think that's when the front porch was, the existing porch was constructed. And so what the application is proposing to do is to expand that portico into a full front porch, as you can see here in the first of the plan drawings on the screen. It maintains a similar shape with a gable front and the simple wood columns. The railings will be wood with inset wrought iron black pickets, and the roof will be in shingles to match the roof on the existing residence. So, as we do with all heritage permit applications, we evaluate them against the guidelines of the appropriate heritage district plan, which in this case is the Trafalgar Road plan. It doesn't have a whole lot of guidance in terms of alterations to non-historic buildings, but the primary concern here really is to make sure that there aren't changes being made that would detract from the overall character of the Heritage Conservation District. And so it talks about trying to minimize the obtrusiveness of additions, things like that, In this case, the addition is on the front elevation, but it is a front porch, which is entirely appropriate there. The plan does say that non-heritage buildings should not attempt to create this false sense of being old. And we don't believe that this proposed porch does that. So, as we've noted, the existing residence is not historic, and therefore we're not removing any heritage fabric from the district by removing the existing little front portico. The new front porch, while it's relatively traditional in design, I don't think it actually tries to create a false sense of being old. In fact, I think it really attempts to blend the existing non-historic residence a little bit easier with the surrounding heritage buildings in the Trafalgar Road Heritage District. The proposed materials are generally compatible with the existing materials in the Heritage District, being the wood columns, shingled roof, wrought iron pickets, and the scale and massing of the porch is appropriate for the house and therefore the district as well. So the staff recommendation before you today is to approve the new front porch and that the heritage permit expire 2 years from the date of final approval by council. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Sue. I was actually on the committee when the changes to the house were made. What did you say, 11 years ago?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember it well. Okay, and porches are becoming, or verandas, much more popular these days, with people wanting to have some kind of physical distancing, but still been able to talk with the neighbors and people passing by. So thank you for that presentation, Sue. Does anybody have any questions to ask of Sue? Nope. Okay, Sue, so there are no questions. Now, I know that Alison Strickland has appeared. I don't know if she wishes to speak or if there are any questions that the members of the committee would want to ask her.
I believe actually the agent for this particular property is Jim Wallace.
Is it? I thought it was Alison.
Allison has signed in for the second item on the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry then. It was Jim Wallace. I'm sorry. I apologize, Alison. Jim Wallace. So,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am here. I'm not on video, but I've heard the presentation and I can hear you speaking, sir.
okay, good. So, is there anything that you wanted to add to Sue's presentation?
No, I think Sue was.
Good. Does anyone have any question to ask of Jim, who's still here? Nobody has a question to ask. Okay, good. So we've had the presentation. We've got all of the information. Councillor Gittings, you're itching to say something. Unmute and go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If there aren't any questions, the agent, I'd be happy. I'd like to thank them for bringing this forward and would be happy to move recommendation and acceptance of this.
Thank you. So we have a motion and it's confined to the board. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Any other questions, comments? Okay, seeing none. Is there anyone opposed to the motion? Seeing none, I declare the motion carried and that recommendation will go forward to council for its meeting. Okay, thank you very much. So the next item on the agenda is, if I can just find my agenda here, it's item 3B, and this is the Heritage Grant Program, which Sue will walk us through again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll just get that presentation loaded up. Okay. One of my favorite things actually to do is to present the Heritage Grant Program report to you every year because it is such a good news story. We always wish that we had more money to give out, but it's great to give out what we do have available. And as with all of the years of the Heritage Grant Program, we continue to be oversubscribed, meaning that we have more applications requesting more money than we have to give out. So it's always a tough process to get through that. But again, this is a good news story, and I'm happy to share it with you today. So the photo that we have on our title slide here is Knox 16 Church, and they are one of the applications who are recommended to receive funding actually to help with their interior historic plaster wall repairs. As you can see in the photo, they're attached. There have been some issues over the year. The plaster is cracking and badly need of repair, and we are very pleased that the Heritage Grant Program is able to support them on their repair work to the existing plaster rather than replacing everything inside the church with drywall. So we do thank the parishioners of Knox 16 for taking such good care of their designated heritage church, and again, we are happy to help with that. So this is the 7th year of the Heritage Grant Program. We have $90,000 available every year for heritage conservation projects for designated heritage properties. And so those are properties that are either designated under Part 4 individually of the Heritage Act or Part 5 as a heritage conservation district. We also have made a couple of minor changes to the Heritage Grant Program policies and procedures to make sure that we're also including properties that are subject to heritage easement agreements as well. And so there are a couple of those properties here too, because they have made the commitment for heritage conservation that is registered on title. So this year we received 25 project applications requesting over $207,000 in funding. Obviously, as we only have $90,000 to give out, it was a difficult process for the working group to slice and dice, given that so many of these projects are worthy, but are also similar as well, because the needs of some of these heritage properties can be the same sometimes. But we did note that this year, all 25 applications were certainly worthy of receiving some funding, and they are recommended to receive some level of funding. And so some of these restoration projects are ones that improve structural stability and preserve exterior systems, so stucco walls, cedar roof systems, historic windows. Those are the types of projects that are given priority when we look at evaluating all of the applications. And to date, the Heritage Grant Program has provided over $535,000 in heritage grants to assist with over 105 conservation projects that are collectively worth more than $2.5 million. And I think that goes to show that this investment in our heritage is certainly spurring both the economy and also ensuring that we have these incredible heritage resources in the years to come. So the evaluation working group met on May 29th via Zoom, and I'd really like to thank everybody who participated in that. It's always a lengthy session to try to get through all of these applications, and the additional complication of doing it via Zoom made it a little bit interesting, but we made it through all of the applications. We spread the funding out as widely as we possibly could. Some of the projects were for foundation repair. Again, we've noted that projects that are integral to the preservation of the superstructure of the building, like wall systems and roofs, received funding, historic windows, as well as new or replacement wood storm windows as well, and repairs to historic stucco and wall claddings. And so here are just a couple more pictures of some of the applications for the year. So we've got in the top corner, we have a property, I believe, on Chartwell Road that is looking to repair and repaint their elaborate trim work. In the lower corner, we've got the worn doorstep that's looking to do stucco repairs, which are badly needed. And then, of course, we have one of the 3 church applications that we're supporting this year's Heritage Grant Program, who are going to be working on their window trim as well. So, the recommendation before you today is to accept the recommended grant amounts that are attached in Appendix A. I hope everybody's had a time to look over at them. If you have any questions, obviously I'm here to help, but I know members of the working group can help as well. And then one new thing that we've included this year is just to clarify that any leftover funds from unclaimed grants in previous years that have fully expired, meaning they've gone through the 2-year normal grant period plus a 2-year extension if it's been applied for, and the money still hasn't been used, that we have permission to roll that into the next available Heritage Grant Program year. So that is new, and just to provide clarification to help us with the financial aspect of actually implementing the program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sue. Oh, hello, Kelly. Another Kathy Patrick has appeared. We've now got two Kathys. I'll just update my list here. Just to make sure that I'll read you in. We've got Kerry Colborne now has attended the meeting, and I think I said earlier that Sue Hobson had attended. We've got to read you in so that everybody knows that you're here. Okay, yeah, this grants program is a program I think that we're all pleased to be associated with, and you can always say it would be great to have more money, but we know there are budget pressures on everything, and I think it's wonderful that the town does allocate $90,000. When you've got $200,000 of applications, it means that you're dealing with 45-cent dollars right away. You can't give 100-cent dollars. And so that's always a bit of a difficulty. We wish we had more. The notion of if you don't use it, you lose it is quite a common one with financial people. But we're hoping that council will allow us to roll over any unused money that was awarded, so that we can top it up in an ensuing year. So it's a wonderful process. A lot of people are doing great things to maintain their properties and to keep our town looking as good as it does. And we commend them for that, and we're glad to be able to give them some help. Now, does anyone have any other questions of Sue? Yes, I've got you. Brenda, if you want to unmute and ask away.
I think Councillor Duddick was first, but
I'm sorry, Councillor Duddick.
it's okay? Okay. So I had two questions. One was, previously, have we had grant applications roll over that were unclaimed, or how often has that happened?
Sue can tell you, but it has happened. Sometimes the project just doesn't go ahead and the money doesn't get used. I can't tell you how many, though.
Through you, Mr. Chair. As we're in 2020, and the first year of the program was in 2014, I'd say that on average we kind of have between $3,000 and $8,000 left every year that for one reason or another people haven't been able to complete the work that they've applied for. Sometimes it's change in financial circumstances, sometimes people move, and the new owners have a different plan for the building. So there's a variety of reasons, but we always make sure, or rather I always make sure that I'm reaching out to the applicants to remind them that they have money to use so they're not in a panic at the very end. What I would note right now actually is that the 2016 grant year grants are expiring right now, and there have been a couple of applications that weren't able to complete their work due to the COVID-19 emergency, and so we did issue them an extension so that they have a few more months to actually complete the work, because the original deadline would have shut off that money in May of 2020, which is unfortunate. And so we do expect that there would be a couple more from the 2016 intake still using their money, but then next year, anything that's unused from that would be rolled into the 2021 program year.
Okay, thank you.
One
Yes.
supplement.
Yes.
It's more for councillors Giddings and Duddick, just to ask, has the town planned any stimulus initiatives related to construction coming out of COVID-19 to help the community come out of COVID-19?
Would one of our councillors want to take that on?
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave.
Great question, Brenda, through you, Mr. Chair. We don't have the ability to provide funds for stimulus spending. There are funds that we're waiting desperately for word from the federal government that's being implemented or approved by the provincial government. The old Oakville Trafalgar High School, for example, is one that this committee is very anxious about working with Oakville galleries. And that would be, it would provide a couple of things. It would save a wonderful heritage asset. It would provide for jobs and so on, and help Oakville galleries. That's one example. That funding isn't ours, though. That's from higher levels of government. So we do have a recovery package. I'd be happy to send it, email it to you, dealing with fast tracking patios, for example, in downtown Oakville and Kerr Street and Bronte. Things along those lines. Happy to send it to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Now, does anybody else, Kathy, you know?
Mr. Chair, I'd be pleased to give you a motion to approve with sincere thanks to staff for all their hard work organizing and doing the background work for the committee and working so well with all the applicants to not only educate, but give them a better understanding as to what the grant program's all about and how we want to make sure that their projects are a success.
Thank you, Kathy. I'll take that motion. I'll put it to one side just for a second. Dave, do you want to say something?
I would, through you, Mr. Chair, I just want to, this is the first year I haven't been able to participate in the discussions. And I just want to thank those committee members and staff that were so heavily involved in that. There was an awful lot of pre-work and homework and robust discussions. And for those that haven't been on that process, I encourage you to put your hand up next time around. It's an awful lot of work, but you get to see a lot of projects that are being done and applicants that are certainly supporting the protection of our heritage assets for the community. So I just want to thank the committee for their work.
Thank you, Dave. And you're right. You get to see just how hard people are working to maintain heritage properties, and it does cost more to do that. I mean, there are things that you have to watch out for that you can't do when it's just a house that doesn't have the restrictions on it. But before we go on to deal with the motion, I need to ask if any other member of the committee has a question. And if not, does anyone else wish to speak on this subject? Alison, you've been listening to us. If you're quite happy with the way things are going, then you don't need to say anything. But if you do wish to speak now, now's your chance.
Hi, I think you can hear me.
We can hear you now, Alison. You disappeared and now you've come back, but you're muted.
Hi.
Good. Hi, Alison. Do you wish to add anything to the? You've muted again.
Okay. Good now.
Yes.
No, I'm just really here to, in case there were any questions, and to handle anything, make sure that we don't miss anything. I know my client is incredibly grateful for this program, and thank you in particular to Sue for introducing it to us. We're thrilled that we're able to take part in this. So I guess just for the record, our thanks. I don't have any questions, not about to challenge anything, so just general thank yous.
Thank you for that input, Alison. Yeah, staff do put a heck of a lot of work into this to get it done, and we appreciate your positive response to it. Okay, if there's no further discussion and no further questions on this, we have a motion on the table.
It's 10 o'clock.
My computer has just told me it's 10 o'clock. I don't know if you heard that. Anyway, are there any opposed to the motion? Seeing none, I declare the motion carried, and we hope that council will dispose of it generously when they get it to their meeting. Okay, are there any information items, Madam Secretary?
No, Mr. Chairman. But Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman, just for the record, did you read the chair's statement at the beginning of the meeting?
I did.
Thank you.
That's the bit that tells everybody that it'll be dealt with at council, and I gave the date of that and invited people to let them know. Now, we got an email that gave us, I think, the next 3 meetings together with the Zoom links for each of those 3 meetings, and the ability to click on it and load your calendar if you're running a computer calendar, an iCalendar or a Google Calendar, so that it gets embedded in your calendar, where all the login information goes in there too, so you can actually, from your calendar, access the meeting. The logins are specific to you, so if you don't have yours, I can't give you mine. That's why Kathy had to let you in if you didn't actually have that. So the next meeting is Tuesday, the 14th of July. That's got a familiar ring to it, at Bastille Day, isn't it? And it says it's at the municipal building, but I guess it'll be virtually at the municipal building. So if there are no other items, I'll just like to thank everybody again for their participation today, the gift of your time. It is important that we, even if there only were a couple of applications, it lets people get on with the work that they're trying to do. So I appreciate all of that. Can I have a motion to adjourn? I've got it from Councillor Duddock. Okay, I guess nobody's opposed to that motion. So I'll declare the meeting closed, and thank you all once again. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, everybody.